Okay. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. Obi-Wan, episode 3. Yeah, this caught my attention a little bit more than the first one, and in a way I would not have expected. So, if you have been following the lead up to this, and my talking at any point about this thing prior to it starting to air, I was not thrilled at the idea that Darth Vader would have any part in this. It just felt like the series, just another example of the series unable to move on from certain things. And, when I came in for Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm like, Obi-Wan and Anakin, like, again, we know where this ultimately goes. We know what their final confrontation is like. What is there to be gained by having them encounter each other in the interim? And I didn't really see a lot of value in it. That having been said, I do honestly enjoy being wrong. Like, especially given that I can be cynical. I can be pessimistic. But I want to be wrong whenever I am. And I was quite impressed with Vader in this. In terms of the way he's used, and more than anything, the way that he is depicted, just, he's a monster in this, which is good. Because I feel like at this point, knowing he eventually gets redeemed and knowing he was once this annoying little kid, and, Hayden Christensen, bless him for trying, didn't quite sell him as dangerous, more petulant. He's gotten harder to take seriously over the years, which is a shame because Darth Vader is a great villain. But here, without pushing him further than it's reasonable for Darth Vader to be, staying directly in line with what makes sense for what we know this character to be capable of, yeah, he's monstrous. Just walking down the street, choking and throwing about and breaking the necks of people that he knows aren't who he's looking for. But he also knows this will probably draw out Obi-Wan. And, yep, that tracks, that's ruthless, that's brutal, and it's really, really effective. And the show is continuing to actually do a really good job with this whole thing where it's very clear that Obi-Wan has just completely disconnected from the notion of himself as a Jedi. He touches his lightsaber for the first time in this episode, and you can tell he's not comfortable with it anymore. He just isn't. Which also has it make sense where, Darth Vader is able to grab and sort of force lift him from a distance, which under normal circumstances I go like, wait, can Jedis do that to each other? Because that seems like a cheat that everyone should be using, except I totally buy that given Obi-Wan's current state, maybe normally more centered, more at one with the Force, he, Vader wouldn't have been able to do that to him. But now, yeah, I believe it. I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty impressed with that. Now, Vader isn't the whole thing here. We get a bit more of Leia, and she's still working pretty well for me for the most part. I actually really like that they get picked up by, I forget what his name was, but the sort of the mole-looking guy, and he's super friendly. He's super happy to help. He's also an Empire loyalist. And, he picks them up and he, meets the Imperial troopers. He's like, I thought you might want to check them out. Again, real pleasant. Nice people, seemingly nice people, outwardly nice people, can support terrible things very wholeheartedly and believe them to be right. That's worth depicting. And we kind of have the flip side of that with the officer who helps Obi-Wan and Leia try and get off the planet. Someone who is outwardly completely closed off and rigid, but no, there's something else there. But I feel like we see that more often than we see the pleasant, cheerful face of banal evil. And evil might sound like an excessive term for this guy, but he's all in on the Empire. And he's just cheerily pleasant about it. There's something oddly unsettling about that in a good way. So I liked that. Thought that was cool. The villain is growing on me. I keep forgetting her name. Third sister, I know, is her rank, title. I don't know how the Inquisitors work. She's growing on me, although honestly, part of that is in contrast to the other Inquisitors, because the other Inquisitors are real boring. You know, the sort of, I will have my way. You know, just this generic, oily, evil voice, you know, just no personality. There's no personality of note other than just is evil. Okay. She's got personality. She's got something driving her that I'm still hoping we're going to get more information on. I have my suspicions of where that's going. I've actually had them since she was first introduced, but I haven't said them on the record as yet, because if I'm right, that's a potential spoiler. If and when we find out more about her background, I'll let you know what it was I was thinking. So, and I also know I'm not the only one who was thinking this. I've seen it come up like in comments and whatnot. But she is working for me, and she's going to be necessary because, like I said, as good as the Vader stuff was here, and it was very good, I don't need to see Vader again for the rest of this series. And I think whatever benefit there was going to be at the two of them seeing each other, we got it here. And it was a benefit here. It was a benefit I didn't think was going to exist. But now that I've gotten it, like, don't over egg the pudding, or whatever the heck, some phrase, like, don't give us too much just because the thing works. There is a proper dose, and I think we've already had it, at least in terms of his direct confrontations with Obi-Wan. I think from here on out, it probably should be her for the most part, which makes her very necessary for the sake of plotting and story. I actually don't know if I have too many other thoughts on this. It was just a nice balance of tension. You know, when they were in the back of that vehicle being asked questions, and they obviously hadn't worked out a firm story ahead of time. They're making it up as they go. There's a couple of flubs. There's good tension around that. And you do find yourself wondering, are they really getting away with this? And then when you realize they're not, you're like, ah! And you know what was another good thing? Leia being in the presence of blasters going off and people dropping dead, that shook her. You could tell it did. She wasn't really prepared for that. And while I don't doubt on a, time scale of her life, this probably is a traumatizing event on multiple levels, the being kidnapped, the being chased, the seeing people die. But in the more immediate, you see this shake her, not in a way that she shuts down, but in a way that you can tell things became real for her in that moment that she hadn't had to deal with up to that point. She probably was aware to some degree of the danger she was in, but it was all theoretical. Then shots are going off. And you could tell that hit her in a way and affected her, as well it should. So that was well done. I was happy to see that. I don't think I've got all that much else to say. Performances are solid. This held my attention a heck of a lot better than the first two episodes did. So if we can keep in this vein or on the trajectory, like to even deeper, more interesting stuff from here, I'm on board. Like, I kind of consider third episodes oftentimes to not necessarily like be a hardline make or break, but if I'm not vibing with something by episode 3, it's unlikely to turn it around later on. Sometimes, not often. Here we are, episode 3. I'm feeling much better about it. And I'm now looking forward to next week's quite a bit. Sorry that this came out a little bit later. I like to try and get these out the same day, but if you go to the Council of Geeks on Saturday and see what I upload there, I had to throw that together pretty quickly. So that was what my day was spent doing yesterday. But yeah. And oddly enough, still keeping pace with this and Stranger Things. I watched the third episode of Stranger Things season 4. Still don't really like it. There are certain characters, certain pairings that work. They've got Robin with Nancy now. That works pretty well. I still love Dustin and Steve. They're great together. Lucas really disappointed me as a character. And it was nice to see, what's his face, Paul Reiser come back. Why am I talking about Stranger Things? That's not what it... I'm going to stop. Whatever your thoughts are on Obi-Wan Episode 3, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what allows me to pay the bills and allows this to be my living and how I spend my days trying to catch up on stuff. But any amount you can help is a great assistance, great help. I'm losing words. My brain has decided that it's already done for the day. But even if you can't do that, like, share, subscribe, those help me as well. But don't worry too much about that either. We clearly take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break. Hey, end credits time, which means I need to shout out some patrons. This time I'm going to be shouting out Robin Moore, Zubin Litfala, Tarak, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Imudelki, Leo the Boy, TT, Fernobulax the Poodle, Zach Paul, Eidolon, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Caspero, Toku BL Hoovian, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. You want to hear me mispronounce your name? Check out rewards on the Patreon. Thanks for all your support.